I knew that I don't want to work for someone. Now, when I say work for someone, at the end, you always work for someone. Even when you're an entrepreneur, you always have obligations. I love to work. I love to accomplish things. I think that if someone is like in his core is like an entrepreneur, he's gonna think, okay, what can I do in this job to make it better, not just to do the job. And that's another thing that I don't think anybody can be successful if he doesn't take risks. I don't think it's possible.
Hi, Alon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great, but it's good to
Awesome.
have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
You moved from Israel to South Florida 17 years ago and have started so many businesses from coffee shops to now a very successful real estate company. When did you realize that you were meant for entrepreneurship and not working for someone else?
First of all, 17 years ago, that's when you say it, it sounds like a very long time. I still can't believe I'm 17 years here. I can tell you that ever since I was a very young boy, I knew that I want to be an entrepreneur. It just, I knew it. Like I knew that I don't want to work for someone. Now, when I say work for someone, at the end, you always work for someone. Even when you're an entrepreneur, you always have obligations. You always need to give people, what are you doing and how are the numbers? So it's not like that, but it's about more like the creating, like the controlling of your future, that sometimes you're limited when you're working for someone. Like there's always so much you can move up the ladder. And in Israel, before I moved here, I worked 3 jobs. I was working as a fitness trainer. I was a fitness trainer for a very long time. I also worked club promoting. I work during the day in the gym. At night, I go to clubs, I promote. And I also worked with the stock market. And I was like a day trader. So it was also a lot of work, but I loved it. Like I love to work. I love to accomplish things. And when I moved here actually on a volleyball scholarship. And then I studied economics. And I knew that path will take me to great things. I didn't know what. I knew that I want to do real estate. I always knew it since I was a child, but I didn't know what. Real estate, when you're a kid, you think real estate is one thing. As you grow up, real estate can be 100 different things. I always knew it, and I didn't know how I'm going to get there. It's always important to meet good people along the way that will help you there. You can't just do everything by yourself. And I have great partners with me.
When you're looking at yourself, you said you always knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur. How did you know that? Because so many people struggle with that, especially if they haven't gotten started at a younger age. They're in their 30s, they have working, and they're like, am I meant to be an entrepreneur? How do you know that you're one?
I do think that, look, every person can change, but in a way, I do think that something like that, in a way, is like something that is core in yourself, that you grow up and you know that you want to do different things. To work the 9 to 5 is a very like basic understanding of how life should be. Like everybody think, okay, I finish college, get my degree, I need to work like a 9 to 5, I go home, and that's perfectly fine. I have a very good friend that he had a very successful hedge fund that gave him unbelievable stress, and he closed it, and then he started working for a bank 9 to 5, and he's very happy, stress free. He's making good income and he's happy with it. He has 3 kids and their financial is good. So I think that's fine. But I think that like when you realize it, it's more about who you are. When you go to a regular job, I think that if someone is like in his core is like an entrepreneur, he's gonna think, okay, what can I do in this job to make it better, not just to do the job. I'll give you an example. Gym like Equinox in the United States, and I was in charge on all the supplements store. By the way, I was the youngest person to work in that chain ever. And then they put me in charge after a year about all the supplements. And I remember one day the manager there, she took me to the storage for the first time, and she told me to count like the supply of like how much protein shakes, how much this, how much creatine. And I was like, this warehouse is like a mess. Like, how can you even count like that? It's going to take me like hours to count. So I didn't say anything to anybody. And I start organizing all the warehouse, everything. And when she came back after a few hours, everything was like organized by label. And it was very easy. And she looked at me like, why did you do it? She didn't believe, like, why did you do it? I didn't really ask for it. But I think that like someone who wants to always do more, always want to improve, you don't need to accept just like the task that people are giving you and always think about like outside the box. And there's so many things like let's say right now someone starts small in a real estate office as a helper, and then that person is getting an assignment as a helper, so he can just keep doing what he's doing and just do all the assignment. Or sometimes that person see an opportunity and he already know, let's say the bosses, they have money supposedly, so he's, hey guys, we have an opportunity here, let's do that. Like thinking about growing, thinking about improving, I think that's something that you have to be born with. A lot of people are born with it and they still do the 9 to 5 because they're scared. And that's another thing that I don't think anybody can be successful if he doesn't take risks. I don't think it's possible. And as you may know, every person that is doing entrepreneurship is also losing money in some point. Not everything is pink, not everything is good. And there are a lot of stressful days. So I think it's very important to accept those days, like to know that they're going to come, to be ready for them as much as you can. Sometimes I had days that I can call it like nightmares. Like it was very stressful. And it's my fault because I put myself in a situation that I was open to be too stressed. I think there should be like a limit, like how much you should be open to stress. But each person is different. Like maybe other people, the stress that I had, they'll be like, okay, it's fine for me, which I don't think it's gonna happen because it was really a nightmare. But that's what make you keeps going. And even when you lose, to know that, you know what, I'm gonna get back on my feet and I'm gonna do good. And the thought process of always thinking that there are so many people that say thoughts become words, become actions, become. So every morning you got to wake up and think that you're going to do good, you're going to be successful. A lot of the successful entrepreneurs, they meet like 10 people a day, like different people. They talk to so many people. Why? Because they get a lot of no. It's not every person that, even if you have the best product, it's not every person that you meet is going to either invest in your company or is going to want to work with you. So once you realize that's fine, you can do the best work ever. It doesn't mean that everybody will accept it. So once I think people realize that, okay, I can, like, I know me, I know that I'll be successful one day. I'll work as hard as I can for it. And along the way, I need to know that I will hear no. And a lot of people that I know personally, they heard a lot of no in their life and they're very successful now because they didn't just let go. They didn't quit. And it's, I don't want to say it's easy to quit because a lot of people, they try something for, let's say 6 months, right? If 6 months you're doing the same thing every morning and it doesn't work, you're like, okay, what am I doing? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. No, maybe you are doing something wrong. I'm not. You got to be wise. You got to be smart. Obviously, you need to know if it's good or bad, but the not quitting, to say, you know what, I'm going to hear that one yes, and that yes will change my life. So that's something I really believe in. And that's what keeps me going. Like that, even if I a lot of no, it's not, I have a lot of projects that I'm trying to get going and it's not working from day one, even though I think it's a great project. It's not like right away, okay, it's a done deal. So it's always the hustle. And I guess hustle is a good word. The mentality of a hustler, it doesn't matter the education. I know a lot of people with no education, they didn't even finish high school and they're the best workers. They make the best money right now. I've been to so many conventions that like the speakers now, they've been in prison, they were selling drugs, they made a full rehab, but they're hustlers. Now, obviously, I'm not saying any drug addict or seller will be able to make a lot of money. It's a character. But that's what I think, like really how do I know if it's for me? And I think that's, I said a lot of different things, but I think everything together is what really bringing you to that point.
You talked about the importance of moving forward, even despite a no, even when things are not going your way. The more successes we have under our belt, those muscles get stronger, right? That the more successes we have, like, it's going to work out. But that's not really true when you're at the very beginning phase, right?
Right.
Because that's where all the doubts and uncertainty and the demons in your heads are. And everybody, your friends and family are saying, don't do it. It's a bad idea. When you look back at your life, you made so many big changes, moving across the world and then restarting your life. And then your first couple of entrepreneurial ventures. At the very, when you were a young Alon, and just getting started, what was one time when you thought, oh my God, I don't think it's going to work out? And how did you work your way through it?
It's a good question because honestly, I can't really think about one thing. There are just so many different things. I remember when I was a club promoter, the owner of the club, I knew it from school. He was a very young, also entrepreneur, very successful. He did so many different businesses, very successful. And I remember that I told him that I'm going to move to United States. And he, back then, he made a lot of money in Israel. So he looked at me and he's, listen, you can be successful here. You don't have to go all the way to the other world, side of the world, and do it. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I can always move back. Like I have a family, I have a foundation. I'm already doing okay as a young kid, let's say. I'm doing okay. I didn't make so much when I was like 20. I said, I'm doing okay. So if I will fail, I never want on my record, my personal record, to say I didn't try. So I'm always, if I want something, I'm going to try. And if I try and I fail, I don't want to say nothing happened, but in a way, I always have where to go back. I'm sure if I'll go back to Israel right now, probably in a few months, I'll find what to do and it's going to be good. So I'm not really like worried. And so I think like when you're failing, if you keep thinking that, okay, I always have where to go back, so I can keep pushing until the very like limit, like where you're like, okay, it doesn't work, then you need to decide. Now there are a lot of, like we mentioned before, a lot of breaking points. There are so many points that you're like, okay, I talked to all the people that I know in the world, right? No, everybody said no. But when you really think about it, let's say right now you're like, okay, I want to open a business in Utah. And you're like, okay, I don't know anything about Utah. I don't know anything about like how to even start. But when you really think about it, if you're not going to do it, somebody else will do it. And that somebody else, how does he reach people? How does he know? Now, of course, a track record is very important, right? Like when you start, that's the hardest. Like everybody looks at you and they're like, you have no experience. That's why it's harder. But when you realize that, it makes sense. Like, it's okay. I understand. I have no experience. It's fine. I will find that person that believe in me, that they see the passion. Also to minimize risks. Like, when you're starting a new venture and you're looking, obviously nobody can start by himself. Like you need the funding, right? For whatever it is. If you need 100K, you need it. And if you need 100K, I think also to give the other person at the beginning that invests the money, the more, meaning like as you move forward, probably that person will make less because you already have the track record. You already have other people in the pipeline that if he's not going to invest, somebody else will invest. So I think it's at the beginning more about proving yourself to basically get that experience and not really worry about the money from the beginning. It took me a very long time to live okay. I had so many struggles, but I always knew. I don't know. It just I have a long road, like stones point that I know what am I supposed to do in a year, what I want to do in 3 years, what I want to do in 5 years, in 10 years. I don't have yet 20 years, but I think it's important. Now, obviously, things change, right? It's fine that it's changing. You're adjusting, but to also think about the short term and the long term, the medium term, I think all of that is super important. And that's how everybody will have breaking point. Even successful people, I'm sure you've seen people that made millions and lost everything. And they had to start all over again to open a new business. That's to some people might be even harder because they already taste like the money and then everything disappeared and they're like, okay, what's going on with me? I can't believe it. So that's like my it's more about like the approach for life.
I love it. I really like when you said, in a way, you have a worst case scenario that I have this much runway until when I'm good. And you can just track and not be anxious when you're in that runway phase. I think a lot of anxiety comes from this lack of planning and preparation. And you're constantly living in that fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen tomorrow? So I think it's a very strategic way to go about it. You are at this point in your life, you are in the journey that you've described. You're a fitness trainer in the morning, you're a club promoter in the evening. Life is good. You're making a lot of money, you're making connections. What stirred in you that you said, you know what, I want to move into and start some coffee shops of my own? What's about that journey?
The coffee shops is actually it's an interesting story because I did not plan it at all. I actually was working here in Florida for doing after I finished my degree, I started managing buildings for real estate. I managed about 300 units. And that path reached to a point that I said, okay, I can move. I'm not moving forward to as much as I want. And I had an opportunity. One of my best friends, he came to LA And we always had a dream to do something together. So I said, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. But I took 180 degrees. Like I said, you know what? I'll go there. We'll figure it out. I had no clue. I didn't save a lot of money by that time. I had no clue what to do. And we start selling paintings door to door. We knock on doors. And you know what? To me, again, it's not only the money, it's what am I learning from it. Now I'm okay, but I was a very shy person. To me, to knock on the door of a stranger and try to sell him a product that he's like, why are you knocking on my door like 6 p.m.? It's the hardest sale there is, because they don't want the product. They don't know you. So for me, it was a very learning experience. My friend over there, now we're partners actually in Africa in a hotel. So we were like, he's more of a salesman. He's like the best. He can sell ice to the Eskimo. He's an amazing salesperson. So I said, let's see. I feel something can come out of it. We started it. We were supposed to open a gallery and things were like looking good, but he decided that he wants to move back to Israel. So I said, okay, I can go back to Florida and do real estate. I had an offer in Florida to be partner with someone that we're still doing some projects until today. But I also had an offer to start the coffee shops in LA. It just came again with childhood friend and his brother and another partner. And it was just an opportunity and it grew. But I worked hard for it. Like I took it and I worked my ass out. When that journey reached the limit and I said, okay, time to move back to Florida and do real estate, which is really what I wanted.
Time and time again in your life, in the very beginning of the show, you said you always knew you wanted to be in real estate. And no matter where you are, whatever endeavors you are undertaking, no matter how much success you have, real estate keeps calling you back to it. What is it about real estate that has always just been so fascinating to you?
So a few things. First of all, my family, my dad, rest in peace, he was a GC and he also had a dirt, I think it's called a dirt company, like to bring all the gravel and dirt to construction sites. His brother, my uncle, was also a contractor. My uncle from my mom's side was a contractor. Now my cousin is a contractor. So everybody like grew up into real estate. It just, now I'm not saying we were a very wealthy family, but that's how we were. We were very like hands-on handymans. Like we knew how to fix stuff and that's what we did. On the other hand, it's like watching honestly TV and you watch like the United States, the American dream, the wealth, and every wealthy person is telling you real estate. So it just your mind, that's the only way to grow. I'm not saying that's true. There are other ways, but you will never meet a person that made money in another field that is not investing in real estate. That's fact. Zero. I just said, okay, I want to have a wealthy life. I always knew it. Money, when I was younger, I can say money more motivated me. Money, don't get me wrong, it motivated me 100%, but it's more now about the accomplishment. It's more about reaching a goal, like to be able to close a deal in a different country that I didn't think is I didn't even know where it is on the map. And now I'm like, I'm there. So that's for me now more important. But I think that everything is around real estate at the end.
So what happened when you got into real estate business? Tell us a little bit about the first couple of steps.
So I started from management, right? Like that's how I started. I really jumped into the water. Like I didn't have experience in management and I got to manage like hundreds of units out of nowhere. From that, I got experience in renovation, construction, because we have to start fixing units, stuff like that, to manage people. And again, then I had Los Angeles. When I moved back, I partnered up with a friend of mine that we started to do also some flips, some management, some renovation, construction. And from that, the ball just started rolling and knowing people. I did, even with him, I decided in one point when I saw that the vacation rental market is like the place to be, like the future. So that's where I decided to again do a shift. I don't like to start something and just change it, but I'm not opposed to it. I do think like clearly, is it really worth it? Is that really what I want? And I can tell you that shift opened my doors to so many different people that are my friends now and I know, and business partners. And I think that not to be afraid of a change is super important. Now, again, some people call it like quitting in a way. You start something, it start going, and then you're like, I don't know, I'm not happy. Okay, I'll move. Like you start making some money, but it's not where you thought you will be after like 3 years. To me, it's not really the reason. It's obvious. I'm assuming if I would have made $1 million a year, I'll probably stay with my other position, right? To be realistically, but it's not really that the reason. I just felt like I'm in real estate, but I'm not in the right place that I want to be in. Like everything changes. Like what am I doing in the morning? The people I know, my obligations to the type of real estate. Like now I'm traveling more. The other job that I did was more like locally. I had more 9 in the morning until 6, 7 p.m., like nonstop stress. It's different now. So I think that's like also where things led. A lot of things have to fit into place. You meet people and then out of nowhere, it just becoming like all of a sudden a business or an opportunity. I think that, and I'm sure actually that a lot of people, including myself, we meet so many people that we can probably do business together and we don't think about it. And it just end with, okay, nice to meet you. Or let me give you my number and let's keep in touch. We'll drink coffee one day. You never meet that person again. You meet him maybe in another event like a year after. So I think that's something that I'm trying also to work on it. Look, I meet so many people, but there's always more. Like I need to meet more. I need to do more. When you take a number, call that number, meet with that person, see where it can lead. Let's say in your business, you offer like a affiliating commission. Do that like 50% of the people you know about it. You never know who they know, I'll give you just a very quick example. When I was a trainer, I had a friend of mine. We were friends from the gym, but he worked out at the gym and he was young. He was in very good shape. He knew what he was doing. And I joked with him. Like I was being cynical one day. I said, let me train you. And then 2 days after, he came to me. You know what? I thought about it. I want to do some sessions with you. I was in shock because I was like, why a fit person? I was very young. I was like, why is a fit person will need me to train him? Yeah, I was very fit as well, but I didn't feel like he needs me. And so I think it's also people need to have in Hebrew, you say the chutzpah. You need to have I forgot the word, but you need to not only believe in yourself, it's like you need to know your worth. I think that's like it. You need to know your worth. And when you know your worth, that person, just like you need him in a way, like you want to meet him, but you're like, some people are like, okay, what do I have to offer to him? Maybe he doesn't need me. Like people are getting very scared. I'm like, you miss like 100% of the chances you don't take. So I think that's like super, super important. And that's, again, something I need to work on too. I meet so many people that I can probably do business with that I don't. I'm trying to correct it as much as I can. And I think that's what's important, to really take the opportunity and don't be scared. And again, if something doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, don't be scared. I think there's so many people who are afraid to approach people or take action just because they feel like they will be perceived a certain way. The reality is that we're nothing but a moment in someone else's life. A lot of us thinking, oh my God, what is this person going to think about me? It's really more of our ego.
Right.
We are a nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own problem. And if I approach you for a fraction of a second and you don't like what I have to tell you, you're going to forget about me in a fraction of a second. But so many people don't even take that action because they're going to think, oh, what is Alon going to think? He's going to be mad at me, right? It's such a crazy world we live in where people have made up stuff in their heads that stop us from taking actions.
But I'll add to it that I think another very important piece is to know your material. There are a lot of people that wants to do something and they don't know about it. Like they don't know anything about how to approach it, what to do, and they don't do the homework. They're like, okay, I'll jump to the water. What happened? It might work for you when you meet some type of people, but when you really get to the top, people will see through you right away. They know if you know your stuff. And obviously, there's always more knowledge to accumulate and it doesn't end. But I think it's super important that people want to do something, try at least to learn as much as you can. Again, we're focusing now almost 100% of the time on vacation rental segment in Florida. We're like, I think, a very top company in Florida at the moment. And I will feel all day long to talk to I don't care who it is, about the market here. And I know everything there, not everything, but I know a lot about what's going on in the market and the numbers and the thing is that when you talk to, again, a person that has a hedge fund of $50 million and you want him to give you the money, he wants to see not just the experience. Okay, you've been doing it for a few years, but like he wants to see your knowledge. So yes, don't be scared, but at the same time, be ready when you talk to that person to deliver. And I think that's super important.
I want to go back to one of the things you mentioned, which is so cool that you said we're constantly meeting people every single day. And then every single person we're meeting and we're not approaching them to at least offer to work with them for business is an opportunity lost. So you described it perfectly, right? People meet, hi, hello, oh, we should grab coffee together. When you're in town, text me, we'll meet up. And it never happens. What are some alternative things that you have tried and tested that helps build that relationship or at least gets it to a next meeting? Do you have any tips?
I feel that for me personally, it's a little bit different because I'm very friendly in a way that my approach, if I meet someone, is really, okay, come to my office, let's meet for coffee, or let's meet somewhere else for lunch, or I'll come to your place, like your office. And usually it happens. If that's where I'm pushing for, it's going to happen. Like if I get a setback from that, probably it's not meant to be. But then there are the people that you don't really know very close and you do want to get business. And I think with those people, it's more about the follow up. And a lot of people, they do one day or 3 times follow up. The other person is called and then they just stop. Nowadays, with not only the AI, but the AI as well, you have everything automated. Like you can send a person like every week some different message. And again, what do you have to lose? If that person doesn't want to meet you, let's say, so he's just going to be like, if you're really tired, he's going to tell you, okay, stop texting me. And it's fine. You tried everything. But if he's not and he's just being called, it means he's not ready yet, but he might be ready in some point. And I think that's like super, super important. Like the follow-up, every big entrepreneur company that exists, they drive you crazy with follow-ups. I'll give you an example. I've been in last weekend, like this weekend. I was in Clever Summit. I don't know if it's a big real estate convention. There were, I think, 2,000 people there in Florida, and they have my number like in the system. I get so many emails, text messages. They call you like automated calls. They do everything nonstop because they're like, I don't care if he will listen to me, at least if he's not going to do business with me, but I am in his mind. Maybe he's going to talk about me with someone else like I'm doing right now. So maybe, okay, so he will talk about me. Maybe he will refer me to someone else. So when you're staying in people's mind, let's say you're a realtor. I'm not talking about like the entrepreneurship. I'm talking about as a realtor. And you send someone like friends, clients, text messages on a regular basis, or you do ups with like emails, or you drive them crazy in another way. Maybe your friend, let's say, he's not going to buy a house right now with you because he doesn't need a house. But then when he has a friend that needs a house, he's going to think about you right away because you drive him crazy. So I think the follow up is like number one, which is also for myself. I can always improve 100%. I can tell you that I probably would have made another 100,000 a year if I did all the follow ups for sure. So it's always good that you also know that you need to improve yourself and how to do it. I can tell you for myself, our company, we didn't get clients from like advertisement, zero. Everything was like word to mouth. And we didn't really be on social media like actively and stuff like that. And I can tell you that for the last few months, we were very active on social media and you see the results. People react. Now, it doesn't mean nowadays with social, people feel like, oh, I need to get 50 comments on a post. No, but there are how many people I meet in events that they talk to me about stuff that I did that they didn't like the post. They didn't comment on it. I did it, but they see it. You see the post and you just keep scrolling. But then you're like, okay, that person just closed another house, or, oh, they did the renovation here. They did that. A good friend of mine that was also my partner, he's also not on social. And I see how sometimes he has like neighbors or friends that they do a renovation with someone and he's doing like renovations and not him. And they meet in an event and they say, "Oh, I'm doing renovation." And he's like, "Why you are not doing it with me?" And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you're doing it." And but I told you like a year ago. The follow-up, the to be in the mind of the other person, I think that's so important, that people are scared of feeling like they're annoying someone,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you don't really.
Staying on top of people's mind. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're right, everything is happening all the time. And we could have the greatest impression on somebody the very first moment, but the longer time goes, memory fades. So finding ways to be able to stay on top of their mind so that they think of you when they need something. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, 100%.
Tell us about what you're working on right now.
Right now. So we have also a software. It's not mine, but we have it in the company. And the software is a vacation rental management software. It's now being used all over the world and it's growing very rapidly. We have unbelievable people in the board, like people that, if I'll mention some names, they're very big names, and the software is really growing. We're going to utilize that software, and everything takes time. It's probably going to take a couple of years, but again, like I said, you have to plan ahead. So the software is giving us the opportunity to know in different places in the world what the vacation rental investments are doing. We can know in Portugal, we can know in Italy, we can know in Greece, we can know in different states, in the United States, in Africa, people are using it, in Israel. So we have knowledge is power. So we know numbers of returns. And now I can click a button, I can see all the countries, and I can say, okay, this country is making to our client, because again, we know exactly how much he bought it for. Everything is like synced in that software. So we are like, we can make 15% return there. We can make 15% in another country. Which country should we choose? So then we go in more in depth about why to choose which. So that's like more like in the future pipeline. Right now, for myself, I'm closing on a hotel in Zanzibar in Africa. And I'm also opening my mind to investments in Guatemala. I just didn't have a chance yet to planning on flying there in 2 3 months when I'll get a chance. And so here in the United States, we're still buying in Florida. The market is getting saturated, so we're looking for another destination. Texas is actually a place we're thinking about. There you
I'm
go.
here.
I know. And that's why it's contact. We'll be in touch later and I'll tell you, hey, it's all about connecting people. So that's something that we're like checking to see. And it takes time because even let's say Florida, right? Each city, you have counties, but then each county has the cities. And in each city, the city has a regulation, the county has a regulation. You need to know all the regulations, and those regulations also can change. So, what are the rules of the actual state? Florida has a certain rule for vacation rentals, and you can buy an investment in a place, it can work for a year or two, and then people shut you down. They say, okay, you can't do it anymore. What are you going to do? You're going to sell it. Depend on the market. You can lose money. So that's for us, like for right now. Again, we're buying like probably 2 properties a month right now on average in Florida. We're hoping to buy 3. We're capable of buying 3, but we don't really find enough inventory for 3 a month. We're nitpicking like every deal. We're negotiating it for probably like 3 months. It's a long negotiation to just close the contract on each house. So that's like the pipeline to keep going. What's going on here, which takes a lot of work, plus to look into different states, plus the outside of the country to decide which country next. And each place, it's lawyers, like rules, and it's a lot of things. So it takes time. It takes time.
Alon, in a world where there's so much stress and there's so much anxiety, and we are almost always in our own way by overthinking and overcomplicating things, you are a breath of fresh air because you live life with such simple but amazingly smart rules. You listen to your heart, but you also use your brain to constantly evaluate situations, understand when to get into something, when to get out of something, but overall, having the mindset of let's try to figure this out. There's a constant learner in you, there's a constant kid in you, there's an inquisitive guy in you who's always looking under rocks to see what's
Yeah,
there. So
100.
it's just been an honor and a privilege to know you and to have you on the show.
Thank you
Any
so
last
much.
words for our audience members?
You pretty much summarized pretty good. It's the thing about not being scared, but at the same time enjoy what you do. I really enjoy it every second of the way, and I'm always excited about what's to come. It doesn't matter how old you get, it's about what's next and the excitement in growing and finding ways to sometimes to also see when things are not working good, how to fix them, to find the solutions. It's exciting. To me, it's exciting to, okay, how can we fix it? What can we do? How can we still make it work? And also to adjust. I think adjustment is super important. We've done, and I'll really going to touch about it very quickly. When we started, most of our properties was on one section in Florida, and things changed in the market. And we start buying in a location that nobody would have bought. Nobody. And we created a all-inclusive resort style luxury homes, and that takes guts. We said if we'll build it, it will come, and it worked out, thank God. But I think that's like about the excitement to keep you going. To if you're not excited about waking up in the morning, so change what you do.
Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.